Hello again. Welcome back to baby paradise. It's the sun has shifted a little bit, thankfully. I'm down here to take care of our controlled exercise and give our little boy a rest. And I thought I'd sit down, and I wanted to actually talk about a pretty serious topic. And what better way to talk about a serious topic than while baby goats are playing in the field? So hopefully I won't make this too long, but there's something going on in the farming. Hi there, you just jumped up in my face. There's something going on in the local farming world, and it is local to me. And I just really want to, these guys meeting everybody. He's so fun. I want to talk about it because I think it's important that we have a discussion. We open a discussion. I'm looking for your thoughts and your ideas and your perspectives. And I want you to know that, everything I'm going to say from here on in is my opinion. It's based on what I've seen in the news and not what I'm reading in social media, because social media, does not always get their facts straight, to say the least. Well, the news sometimes doesn't either, but I think we've got a good handle on the basics, and it's enough to talk about. So let me preface again my commentary by telling you that I am not a vegan. I am not a vegetarian. In fact, I'm probably one of the bigger carnivores in the world. I prefer meat to veggies for sure. I love my animals to death. Well, that was probably a poor choice of words. I love my animals, and I want them to have the absolute best life that I can give them. They are not meat animals, even though all of these breeds that I work with have started as food animals. They've become companion animals, so I don't process my animals, but they could be. And if somebody wanted to buy them to process them, that would not bother me. I believe in the ethical treatment of animals, but I also believe that, husbandry expectations change over time, and what was good today may be considered bad tomorrow. So I'm open to changing my opinion. And I can tell you, over the 12, almost 13 years that I've been doing this now, my husbandry has changed significantly as we learn more, as we understand more, as we know more and more about the animals that I work with, and in general, the best way to keep animals. I change, I grow, I evolve. So today's position may not be tomorrow's position, but that's where we're at. So here is what I want, the topic, right? And it is, trigger warning. It is unfortunately regarding some what I consider to be animal abuse. I think what most of the world would consider animal abuse. And I just want to address it. There is a farm in Pennsylvania, and I'm not going to give specifics. Y'all can look it up if you want to look it up. And, obviously don't go poke the bear. Don't go, brigading anywhere with social media. Let this play out through the courts as it should be. Uh-oh, sun's coming out. I may have to move. So, stick it here. Keep the commentary here. I'd love to open a discussion on it. So this farm in Pennsylvania is focused on what they do as baby goat snuggles, right? They're a baby goat snuggle farm. They work with dairy breeds. Dairy breeds tend to be much more focused on producing kids. And you got to produce a lot of kids in order to continuously have baby goat snuggles. So you're constantly breeding. You have large herds. I'm not saying that they're constantly breeding the same animals, but there's just a continuous flow of new babies being born in order to maintain that baby goat snuggle activity. I don't know the farm. I'd never heard of them before the news. I am going to shift because the sun is changing and you can't see anything. So I don't know the farm. I never heard of them before this incident hit the news. So I don't know how they run. I've never seen them. As I'm going to make an assumption that all of their animals are well cared for, are loved. And, hey, if they're getting baby goat snuggles all the time, those babies are well socialized. I don't know what they do with their boys. I'm sure they keep their does, because does are production animals. I don't know if they sell their animals to auction when they're too old. I don't know any of the specifics. Y'all can check out Tiger King or any of the other documentaries on these snuggle and, type of activities and what it does and what it requires. The incident in question is the farm does a lot of live streaming through a Patreon. So it's a paywalled live streaming. And their subscribers get a chance to really see them doing what they do at work, at the farm. Similar to what I do, but I think more interactive, right? Live streaming, there's back and forth chat, there's back and forth conversation. Be perfectly fair, you're going to see a lot of what you see on my channel. I just don't do it live. And I don't edit anything, by the way, because I have no time to edit. So what you see is what you get. It's just the same as live streaming here. Sometimes I cut it off if I see something I need to address. But other than that, what you see is what's reality. So anyway, during this live stream, they were waiting for a goat to kid. And how cool, right? You can see goats giving birth, and that's a neat progress. And there's lots of stuff on YouTube about that. In fact, I have a video up of one of my goats giving birth. I was able to take that video from afar. The goat was able to birth naturally, and we got to see the beauty of baby goats arriving in the world. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, this birth did not go well, which often happens in dairy breeds. There's multiple babies in there. They're smaller animals. They get, tangled up amongst each other, and there's often a need to intervene. Now, for whatever reason, this farmer, during this live stream, decided that the most appropriate action for him to take was to perform a C-section on that goat. Let me be clear, this farmer is not a vet, is not trained as a vet. Now, as farmers, we learn an awful lot. We do an awful lot ourselves. We have to. Vets can't do everything for us. There's too many farms in the world, not enough vets. And so, yes, we vaccinate ourselves. We castrate ourselves. Now, castration is not a surgical procedure. If you do it as, with young animals, I would never do a castration as a surgical procedure myself. That is a vet procedure, right? We disbud ourselves. So we do a lot ourselves as farmers. There's nothing wrong with that if you are capable, trained, and you do things with appropriate pain management, if necessary. The only time we need pain management is for disbudding. And I worked with my vet on what that was and how we manage it, right? So that it's done correctly. A C-section, a surgical procedure done without proper pain management, done without proper medical training, in my opinion, is absolutely not an appropriate activity for any farmer to take ever. My understanding from the facts is that this farmer did not have the proper tools to make the correct incisions, to make smooth and swift incisions. This animal had no pain management on board. The animal was in labor, so already in pain. And my opinion is that performing a C-section on camera, untrained, without pain management, equates to torture. It really does. And that's your trigger warning, right? And that's as far as I'm going to go. That's the story. It's not, the details don't matter. The horrific specifics are out there online if anybody wants to go look at them. But, it's enough to know that a surgical procedure was performed, an invasive surgical procedure was performed without the guidance of a vet, without the consultation of a vet. And I have a serious problem with that. And I do hope that this... Uh-oh. What happened, buddy? Got yourself stuck for a minute? So that cry was a little bit of a cry of distress for a second. That's why I stopped. I paused to make sure he was okay. He's fine. I was just checking him out, keeping an eye on him. So my opinion is what this farmer did is absolute animal torture, and he deserves to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I'm not advocating anything from a, PETA rights perspective or anything else. I'm talking about this specific incident with these specific details. Husbandry is subject to opinion and not always, I don't always agree with other people's husbandry. They don't always agree with mine, but that doesn't mean that that's abuse. What is abuse is performing a surgical procedure that you're not trained and qualified to perform, doing it without the proper pain management and tools, and doing it in a non-sanitary environment. So there is a very big split in the farming community as to whether people are supporting this farmer and the decision that he made, or, like me, find it horrific and hope that he is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I would love to see jail time and have his ability to continue to farm taken away. That is my opinion. When it comes to a goat in distress in labor, there are decisions that have to be made. Decisions that involve potentially deciding between saving the doe or saving the babies. We have had a goat in distress once. She was not yet in labor, but she was in distress, and our vet was called in immediately for an evening. It was a late night visit, actually. And she looked at Farm Hubby and I, who were both, standing in the barn, wringing our hands and horrified at what, we may lose. And she says, if we have to make the choice, who am I saving, the doe or the babies? And there was no question in our mind. We both answered at the same time, you're saving the doe. This doe was an older doe. She had lived out her life. This was her last breeding. She was going to be retired. It would have been a valid choice to save babies, and it's a bad choice to be in. But at the end of the day, we would always opt, no matter what, to save the doe. And then retire her. And, that would be the end of that, right? And by retire, I mean they sit in their pasture, they get fed, they get watered, they get everything they need, and they're just pets at that point. And we have plenty of those, right? Fanta and Emma are long since retired. JC is going to be retired. So we have quite a few retired animals that just hang out on the farm and are our beloved pets, and that is all they are, and that is fine. They do not have to be production animals all their lives. But our choice, our position is save the doe. It's not always the right decision for everybody, but it's our decision. So even just deciding to do a C-section to save babies over saving the doe doesn't jive with my perspective. And yeah, I wanted to address it because it is something that happened quite local, probably about an hour and a half from here. It is being circulated on social media with a ton of opinions and a ton of people speculating without knowing all the facts, right? Nobody but the people that were subscribed to the channel and saw the live stream know exactly what happened. So a lot of the information that's out there is potentially exaggerated or, just flat out incorrect. What you doing, sweet girl? You rubbing on me? Hi, JC. But again, I wanted to address it. I wanted to provide my perspective on how I feel about what happened, what we would do in that situation. So if I needed it, and I have thought over the, thankfully it only happened to me once, but there was one time that I believed we needed a C-section. And the goat was not fully in distress, but it was clear we as farmers, experienced farmers, were not going to be able to get those babies out. And she was not going to be able to birth naturally. There was something wrong. So once again, what do? We don't do our own C-section. We call in our vet. And our vet came as fast as she could. We had the tack room completely cleaned out. The floor was swept. Certainly it's not a sterile environment, but it's a closed environment. No dust. We really, while we were waiting for her to show up, we prepared. There were blankets laid down. There were pads laid down. There were, clean water, fresh water, everything ready to go so that she could be taken care of with whatever was necessary. Now, bless my vet's heart, she was able to get those babies out without a C-section, which absolutely incredible. We were so thrilled, and we ended up with a beautiful baby doeling. We did lose one baby, but we ended up with a beautiful baby doeling out of it, and a goat that did not have to go through a C-section. But had she needed it, she would have had anesthesia. She would have been in as sterile an environment as we could provide on the farm. She would have been given antibiotics. She would have been treated with ongoing pain medication, and she would have been able to rest separately from the herd to heal, all the things, right? And that is how we would have treated that situation. If my vet couldn't have come to me, she would have gone in the car and she would have been driven without question, without hesitation. There would have been not even a thought of leaving her on the farm. I don't care how big she was. Thankfully, my guys are miniature and I can pick them up myself. But I don't care if I needed to call 6 neighbors and wake them up in the middle of the night to help me move an animal into a trailer, into a truck if I needed to. That's what we would do. Not perform a surgical procedure ourselves. So that's my position on this ongoing drama. Again, it's going to take a long time for the legal process to play out. There is a legal process in place. Animal control and animal, and police are involved. So it's certainly being addressed. I don't know what the outcome will be. I know what I hope the outcome will be. And I'd love to hear your opinions on the situation. If you've heard about it, if you've seen anything about it, what do you think about our position on husbandry and whether to save does or babies and when to make those decisions? I am happy to say that I've never had to actually execute on that decision. We've always been able to save both doe and babies when necessary. Thankfully, again, that's only happened, I think, 3 times in the course of our breeding history. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on this one. I ask that you keep the commentary to my channel only. Don't go out to social media and go start beating on other people. Hi, little man. You happy to be out? You got to go back for some rest, though. So keep it to my channel. Keep it respectful. Keep it kind. But feel free to tell me what your thoughts are. I will be reading every comment, as always. I will be responding to every comment, as always. It may take me a little bit of time to formulate my thoughts because this one is, it is a delicate situation. But I wanted to take the time to address it. I think it's important that farmers speak up when situations like this happen. And I hope my voice is heard, and I hope that you guys... What are you doing, little man? Hi. I hope that you guys at least were able to balance some of the yucky that I had to talk about with the fact that we've got baby goats flying everywhere. So if you're still here, thank you so much for listening to me drone on about the situation and my opinions. And I look forward to hearing yours. Till then, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Enjoy this beautiful sunny day. And I will see you when I'm back at the barn for the next round of baby goat fun. Bye for now.